Welcome to the Festival of Storytellers. I thank everybody that's involved with this process because we know writers need readers and writers need publishers.
Experience is not about the publisher, it is about us, the authors.
Aloha and welcome back to my live author booth session. My name is Dr. Theresa. I've been a practicing pediatrician. I still continue to work in my office for the past 40 years. And I'm also an author. 2 books, The Happy Healthy Revolution, A Working Parent's Guide to Achieve Wellness as a Family Unit, and my most recent book, my COVID-19 Diary, Practical Tips and Scriptures for Improbable Times from an American Doctor. So today, I wanted to talk about stress. You know, with the pandemic, if you didn't have stress after the pandemic, I think most of us really have gone through a lot of stress. And even though, quote, the pandemic is over, you know, we're now seeing the after effects of the pandemic. I'm seeing a lot of mental health issues. I think mental health issues in children and families have really increased. And then not to mention so many other things in increasing inflation, lots of international and national conflict and political divide. So stress is all around us. Next slide, please. So what I wanted to talk about is our bodies are made to handle stress. And, you know, when we get that stress, we actually get that fight or flight. Our bodies will begin to produce various hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, which causes us to become physically and emotionally prepared. Now, stress can be a little bit of stress, acute stress here and there. It can be a good motivator. They actually say there's studies showing that when people actually retire, you know, and there's no stress, you know, the chances of you dying start to increase. So sometimes a little bit of stress keeps us on our toes, but when our bodies are under chronic stress, and these stress hormones are constantly squirted out, it will ultimately begin to undermine our physical and mental health. In 2018, before the pandemic, we talked about the 2 most common stressors then were employment and money. I could not find any other more recent surveys. Next slide, please. Now, again, as I mentioned, National Institute of Health, of Mental Health talks about the 2 types of stresses. Acute stress. stress that pops up and tends to have a clear and immediate solution. But then we have chronic stress, and this makes it, like I mentioned, more and more difficult for our bodies to process. Things that can happen would be a physical and mental breakdown, heart attack, stroke, depression, chronic anxiety. Next slide, please. Now, when we're not in optimal mental and physical health, I think we become much more vulnerable to stress. And, I just wanted to show that, number one, last week I talked about, not getting enough sleep or not getting good quality sleep. People always underestimate the importance of sleep and not eating well. Last week I talked about nutrition and wellness. Our bodies, we need to be giving it the proper nutrients for it to work. Number three, a network of support. That was another topic I did last week. We talked about the importance of social connection. Social connections are so important, maybe even more important than obesity and exercise and eating healthy. And then, of course, if you already have chronic problems and are in poor physical health, that's a no-brainer. But finally, if you are experiencing a major life change, the death of a loved one, starting a new job, having a child, or getting married, you think, wow, these are all great things. But along with these great changes come a lot of stress. I'm a pediatrician in Hawaii. We have a large military presence here in Hawaii, and I do take care of a lot of our TRICARE military families, and I see so many young families going through so much stress because the husbands are deployed, the families are here with no social support. So again, certain populations are especially vulnerable to stress. Even talking to my reader magnet, all the people who are running this festival of storytellers, when you have these wonderful events, it causes a lot of stress. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, I'll briefly mention a few of the physical and emotional effects. So, when you have stress, your body is muscle spasm, headaches, jaw pain from, clenching your teeth, nervous twitches, emotional things. You're going to have changes in appetite. You feel like not eating or increase eating. You have terrible mood swings, trouble concentrating, you're foggy, you're feeling overwhelmed, you can't focus, restlessness. So this is when that stress becomes so chronic that now it's going to affect your whole mental and physical health. Next slide, please. So, I just wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about ways that really we can just take control of this stress. And I think one of the first things that we have to think about is eating a balanced diet. When I talk about balanced diet, I'm talking about really looking at not the ultra processed foods with all the chemicals, preservatives, colors, additives. I'm talking about food that God made for us. So whole fruits, whole vegetables. When we give our bodies this good food, it just makes us more prepared. We can produce the right hormones to keep our bodies healthy. One of the things I'll add in this nutrition, and I'll be talking about it more tomorrow, but one of the things that really harms us is our terrible sugar intake. So right now, I would say 60 to 80% of the food we eat is ultra processed with more than 5 ingredients. And usually to make it taste good, we add salt and especially sugars and unhealthy fats and additives and preservatives. So again, looking at our diet. Now, we want our immune system to be, at its best. And the only way we're going to do that is if we are eating a balanced diet. Number two, really looking at our alcohol, drug intake, and caffeine intake, because sometimes, that can make our stress worse. Number three, I talked about not necessarily, I don't like the word exercise, but I just encourage people to just move more, just take more steps, do something fun. Like if you hear music and you want to dance, you like swimming, go swimming. Just go for a family walk after dinner. But when you do exercise, this will help to get the good hormones going and boosting your sense of well-being. Number four, I think is very important, especially for us women, but also men. It's important for you to prioritize and say, I need to take time for myself so that I can be at my very best. When you're on an airline, whenever they talk about the oxygen mask, they're always saying, put one on yourself first before you help your child. And it makes sense because we need to have me time so that we can re-energize. And it's just like your phone. You need to, every night I got to plug in my phone or my iPad because I've got to recharge it. Because if you think you're Superman or Superwoman, at some point you're going to come crashing down. Number five, and I'm going to do an activity with you on breathing, but just being mindful of your breathing, of your whole body at the time that you're under stress. And we'll talk about this, but being aware of ways to decrease the stress. And I'm going to talk about the physiologic side, which you can actually do anytime, and you can do it at the time you're having stress. So that will be our activity. Number six, again, one of the common things when we're under stress, we just want to isolate and disconnect, but it's so important to sometimes grab a loved one, a good friend, and really try to share your feelings and concerns and, be brought back to a little more positivity and gratitude. And finally, I tell many of my family's parents and children that sometimes if the stress, anxiety, depression is so overwhelming, and you just cannot handle it, it's not a sign of weakness. I tell people over and over, and even for myself, I had gone through 2 bouts of depression. You've got to seek professional counseling. I know here in Hawaii, ever since we had the pandemic, we've had, 40-50% increase in mental illness, especially for our young children and teens. And now it takes 2 to 3 months sometimes to even get in with a counselor. Even when it's a virtual, we can't even sometimes get in person. So seek professional counseling, talk to your doctor, make that appointment, because I think that's very, very important. Sometimes it's no shame in getting help. And if you don't need help, I tell people it's like a car, maybe every year you just need to go in and need a tune-up. Next slide, please. So I wanted to just talk about this physiological sigh. Now, we all have the power, like if we're sometimes before I go into a talk or before I go on television or radio, and you just, your whole body, your sympathetic system, we have two systems, sympathetic, which is getting us ready, and the parasympathetic, which kind of slows us down. What we can do, and this has been proven, is we can do this physiologic sigh. So this is a cyclic breathing that can be done anywhere by anyone, and it costs nothing. And it can be done in real time. So like I said, what you do is you're going to take 2 sharp inhales of breath through your nose. So it's kind of like this. And then it's going to be followed with an extended exhale. You're blowing out through your mouth. And then again. So on that last slide, the exhalation arouses our parasympathetic system. So this will automatically slow your heart down. And it has this overall soothing effect on your body. I mean, I just did it right now, and I kind of even felt my whole body relaxing. So perhaps what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 3 of them right now. And if some of you want to just try it, I'll walk you through it. So, put your feet on the ground and just be relaxed. Have your body relaxed and take 2 sharp inhales through your nose and then slowly blow it out through your mouth. Let's try it again. 2 sharp inhales through your nose and then a second one, and slowly exhale, blow it out. And do it one more time. So one of the neurobiologists, Andrew Huberman, he mentions that if you can do this for 3 to 5 minutes, that seems like a long time. Sometimes just doing these 3 breaths is enough. It's already made me feel a little more relaxed. But whenever you're feeling anxious, or say if you're at lunchtime, just try doing it halfway through the day. And that a lot of these practices will just tend to help you become more familiar with it, and you'll want to use it more often. Next slide, if I have a next slide. Okay, so like I said, emergency stress management techniques. Sometimes if we're in a very stressful situation, count to 10 backwards, 10, 9, 8. Because sometimes when we blurt things out, we can't take our words back. So sometimes I remember when my 4 kids were little, sometimes I would just have to say, number 3, walk away from the situation. I tell the kids, you know what, before I say anything, mommy's going to go in the bathroom and I will come back. So that way it gives you a chance to really think about it. So remove yourself from the situation or count to 10 before you speak or react. For some people, I know my husband, he likes to just say a quick prayer. For that, it really helps him. When we encounter a problem, sometimes we look at the entire big problem and we're so overwhelmed that we go, okay, maybe we do some deep breathing and let's break this problem down and take it one by one. Okay, another one. If it's not an urgent problem, think about sleeping on it. Sometimes when we sleep on it, it gives us a better perspective. Um, and the last one, sometimes I just like to go, um, hug your dog, hug a loved one, just quickly talk to them, get a little support. Um, Sometimes that gives you a good perspective. I remember there was one night I got a terrible email that really upset me at 9:30 p.m. And I don't know. Sometimes when you get a stressful situation, your body just goes into this fight or flight motion. And so I think, if we keep some of these management techniques in our back pocket, these are tools that can maybe help us think about what our next move will be. Um, I have a friend who's a physician, and he doesn't have a filter, and he'll just, whatever he's feeling, he'll blurt it out. He's a much younger doctor, and then he'll come back the next day and he'll start backpedaling. And once your words are out there, you've already, it's hard to forget those words that were said. It's hard to backpedal, and so I've been trying to mentor him and talk to him about, like really just taking a few moments and thinking about what you're going to say as you respond to that stress. But anyway, hi JP again. You've been a regular here. I just want all of you to know that stress is common. Stress can be good, but for many of us right now, stress, if it becomes chronic, it's really going to start affecting all of us. And I want all of you to know that we can't put things in individual boxes. As I mentioned last week, I talked about social connection, social support. I talked about good nutrition and wellness. I talked about the importance of sleep. I think all of these things, we need to be role models for our youngsters and anybody who we have contact with. I want everyone to know that, wherever you are in your health journey, it's never too late to start. We all have choices to make, and sometimes it's so hard to move into action. But I'm telling you, don't be fearful. You've got to make that choice. You've got to take the chance, because this is the time you are going to succeed. Mia just said, are children susceptible to stress? And I'd say yes, most definitely. I think children can, even the younger toddlers, if they don't understand the words, they can feel your energy. Now, their expression of stress might be irritability, crying, throwing tantrums. I mean, I think adults do that too, but stress really is something that is very contagious. And so I know with my 4 children, whenever I came home from a hard day at work, it's kind of like, you kick the dog, you yell at the kids. And I think if we are aware that sometimes stress is contagious and our kids are watching us, our fellow colleagues and workers are watching us, we need to just kind of, like I said, let's do the physiologic sigh. Let's kind of regain our calm and center ourselves again and say, you know what, let me not take it out on my family. Let's break it down. Let's, count to 10. So again, if we can pay attention to all aspects of our life, not only our nutrition, but did you get a little bit of movement or exercise? How is your sleep? How's your support system? Have you talked to your loved ones? Let's all turn off the screens, sit down with our loved ones, and how about being nice to them? One of my homeworks sometimes for my families is just sit down, look them in the eye, and say something kind. You really look beautiful today, or you made a wonderful dinner. Thank you. Or thank you for making my coffee, even though you always expect it. I think all these things create that positive atmosphere within your family. And again, just talking about my books, the Happy Healthy Revolution is really talking about ways the family can just get healthier. Apart from doing blood tests, Zilch says, what are the signs we need to look for if our sugar levels are high? So stay tuned tomorrow, because I will talk to you about the dangers of sugar. Sugar has so much influence on our liver fat and our mental well-being. So tomorrow I will talk to you about how addictive sugar is and how it's affecting all ages, and what we need to be doing to make our lives better. And anyway, let's see. Tony says, do you think people can still eat healthy when this alternative can be expensive? I talk to families, and if you look at my book, I talk about alternatives. What I used to do is if I didn't have time, I could go to McDonald's and buy a hamburger for $1 and bring it home. And then I would serve it to my kids with a vegetable salad with fruits, and also drink milk. And, so there are ways where, I talk about how we can get the entire family on Sundays involved in teaching children how to cut fruit, wash fruit, how to even begin cooking, and growing your cherry tomatoes. I used to have cherry tomatoes and green onions in a small little garden. So I think when everyone in the family gets involved, my 4 children are now in their 30s and early 40s, and my 3 boys are excellent cooks. And I never even thought that they were watching, but I think it's getting people involved at an early age. And as a pediatrician, Mia asked, when is the right time to seek professional help? As I mentioned earlier, if you're feeling trapped and overwhelmed, if it's been a month or 2 that you're dealing with a lot of stress, I say go for professional counseling. It's always good to get a professional's advice. If you don't need further counseling, they'll let you know, but at least you have your foot in the door and you can go back when necessary. As I mentioned, here in Hawaii right now, it takes 2 to 3 months to even get into making an appointment. And so anyway, I thank all of you for your time and visiting me again. I will not be here tomorrow, Tuesday all day. I see my patients in my office, but I will be here on Wednesday to talk about, why liver fat matters. And I'll kind of talk to you about how sugar is really damaging our livers and our whole health. But I will be here on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday for live author booth session. And don't forget roundtable discussion for me. I'm going to be moderator on Friday, February 2nd, 1:30 Eastern Standard Time. Aloha, stay warm, and I hope to see you on Wednesday. Bye-bye.